All right. You might have remembered. I was trying to remember if it was last year or the year beforehand. Of a middle-aged Pākehā woman who made the news, and she's a real estate agent, and it's unusual for middle-class, middle-aged white women to make the news who are real estate agents, but she, in actual fact, did. Her name is Janet Dixon, because she wanted to renew her real estate license. She'd been a very successful real estate agent for a number of years, and she was told that she would have to do some compulsory courses by the Real Estate Authority to do so, which essentially included some form of cultural safety course in which she would need to learn about the principles of the Treaty of Waitangi and various Maori or ideologies, which she said have no relevance to me in terms of selling real estate, nor my clients. Why are you now imposing this as a condition of me being registered as a real estate agent in this country? She objected. And she became a cause celeb, picked up by the Free Speech Union, but also by others who say, well, this is so bloody ridiculous. And it seemed all that was so manifestly wrong in the lead up to the election, we hoped all this would go away. Well, there's a bit of a postscript to this now, which is why we're talking to Jonathan Ayling, the Chief Executive of the Free Speech Union, because Janet Dixon's now lost her job. She's not allowed to be employed as a real estate anymore because she didn't do these cultural safety courses that, as I said, have got nothing to do with her as a real estate agent. And the Real Estate Authority have not backed down. Now, we've had a new government for the last 15 months who were meant to deal with this kind of nonsense, but Janet Dixon's rather proof that they have not. Joining us to talk about this and where to next is Jonathan Ayling from the Free Speech Union. Jonathan, welcome to the show. Happy New Year to you.
Yeah.
Jonathan, you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can now. Happy New Year to you, Jonathan.
Thank you. Good to be back.
Janet Dixon, she's lost a job. I was stunned to read this from yourself in an email that you sent out last week. And she now has no employment at all. I thought this government was elected to get rid of this sort of nonsense.
Well, I think a lot of Kiwis were operating under that assumption. And to be fair to the current government, I think they have put in a lot of policies that do seek to turn back some of the authoritarian or oppressive nature of the administrative state. But also, some of these ministers perhaps aren't as enthusiastic to put in place the first principles that are needed. And so Janet Dixon is a good illustration of this. Rather than being a middle-aged woman, Michael, actually, I think she's 82 years old. She's a woman full of life. She's been practicing as a real estate agent for many decades now and had absolutely no intention of giving it up. She is just a remarkable woman to be around. And I think that is that correlates to her story here, where she said, no, I'm not going to be told what to think on these issues. I am involved in conveyancing. I sell property and I help people buy it, and I've done a very good job at it. And me having to understand Māori spirituality is simply overreach from the Real Estate Authority. And that's part of the problem here, is that while we have a new government, we have many of the same bureaucrats in place who have little regard for the speech or conscience rights, some of them, of everyday people. And the idea that the Real Estate Authority or other regulatory bodies like that should involve themselves in telling practitioners what to think, it's not a foreign concept to many of them across many of these regulated industries. And New Zealand has dozens of regulated industries that you can only practice in if you participate in the monopoly licensing system of the state. And so you cannot be a real estate agent unless you are qualified by the REA. And it's an incredible chokehold on our system and a compulsion of ideology to say you can only have this license, you can only put bread on the table in the manner that you have for decades if you are willing to submit to this litmus test of political thought. And that is not how we should operate in a free society like New Zealand.
No, it's really interesting. When you go to the Real Estate Authority and they ask you what are the required criteria and qualifications to work in real estate, they are what you would expect. they are that you're a fit and proper person, basically. You've got the right qualifications and experience. But at no stage do they actually hint that you will need to be politically indoctrinated as a consequence of that. What's been the response to from the real estate authority to you at the Free Speech Union when you've tackled them on this particular issue?
Well, this case kind of came to a head middle of last year, and the law firm in Wellington, Franks Ogilvy, has taken Jenna on as a client to the High Court and have asked for a judicial review of the decision to refuse her a license on the basis that she hadn't completed the mandatory qualifications. And so we're still waiting on that High Court decision. But the Free Speech Union has gotten involved, going, actually, regardless of whether the court does the right thing or not in this particular case. And we very much hope and believe the arguments are sound enough to say that Janet Dixon by no means should be debarred from practicing. But we've got a bigger issue than just Janet Dixon here. In fact, we've got a bigger issue than just real estate agents here. We have a culture in New Zealand that is set in these institutions that says actually the political opinions these people hold, that it really matters in terms of whether they can be a proper dentist, whether they can be a lawyer practicing properly, whether a real estate agent, whether a proper teacher. As long as we have people thinking the right way in these positions, then we can be ensured that they will be good professionals. And actually, these are highly contested issues. And so, as you say, this isn't an anarchical approach at all. Anyone can sell real estate. Anyone can practice as a lawyer. Anyone can practice as a doctor. Of course not. That's not what we're saying at all. We're saying if you're going to put limitations on who can practice as a doctor, who can practice as a real estate agent, which you should, it needs to be directly related to the function of that professional. And so the different requirements will be different for different professionals. And that's why the Political Neutrality Bill that we've put up directly pertains to real estate agents. We gave thought to whether a single piece of legislation could say professional regulators must only use their authority to compel education as it relates to the core business of that profession. But we needed to be precise enough in the language to accept that actually what a professional doctor looks like and the skills they have is different to what a professional real estate agent looks like. So that's why we said, okay, within the real estate authority, what are the core aspects of competency? And that's all the state should be imposing. And the real estate the real estate authority has fought us every step of the way. And the minister in charge for this, the Associate Minister for Justice, Nicole McKee, unfortunately doesn't seem to get what's at stake here either. She thinks the current code of conduct for the public service that requires political neutrality is sufficient. Well, clearly, Michael, the real estate authority is in court with one of their practitioners. Obviously, that code of conduct is not sufficient.
No, okay, fair enough. Now, as you say, you've confined this to real estate and you've drafted over the holiday period the Real Estate Agents Political Neutrality Bill. Can I ask a question of you? Is there anybody of the 120-odd members of Parliament currently in the House of Representatives who is going to pick that bill up as a private member's bill?
We haven't had those conversations yet because we were having conversations with the government about it being adopted as a government bill. And we're hopeful that they will still see sense on this. And that will all depend really on the way that real estate agents, particularly around the country, but Kiwis in general, stand up and say, actually, I don't care what the political opinions of my real estate agent is. I care about whether they can help me get a good property, whether it's built well, whether it's a fair transaction. And so it really depends on people participating in the democracy. Of course, Michael, you'll know well, a member's bill is an option for us, but it depends on the luck of the draw, almost literally. We get it put in the cookie tin there, but there's no guarantee that will come out this Parliament or really when that piece of legislation could be considered. Alternatively, the government is always passing legislation and has recently had a bill go through with respect to the Real Estate Authority. They could have included this then, and there are other opportunities, even in this Parliament, to ensure that there is space to say, real estate agency, authority, back in your lane. You don't get to compel people on what they think.